Well, hello again folks. Welcome to part 2 of my video on the Hoover 119. Now you'll notice for the occasion I put on my official Hoover service jacket that I used to wear when I was at work. I didn't bother putting the tie on, so I hope you'll excuse me. When I was at work I always used to wear a tie, keep the customers happy. In the last video I went through the 119 and showed you all the bits and pieces of it, what was wrong with it and what I should do to it. So now I'm going to get to grips with it. And we'll start to take it apart and I'll show you what you can do with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is obviously take the bag off and get that out of the way. We'll just remove the bag. That just twists and comes off like that. And you notice somebody's put some tape round here because obviously it's been leaking. There, the gasket's worn. If there is a gasket, I can't even see one. The gasket's gone inside the bag. That will need replacing. I've got some gaskets, that's not a problem because it will blow air out otherwise. So we'll put the bag out of the way, we don't need that for a while. That's the original Hoover bag, by the way, so it's quite nice to try and keep that. I should have said when I started, when I'm doing this machine, I'm not going to do it up like recondition it totally. I'm just going to repair it and just clean it up and get it working again, leave it as it was originally. So I'm not going to respray it or anything like that. It's just I should just make it mechanically. As I mentioned, this is the wrong flex. It's horrible, great big thick stuff. It's nowhere near suitable for this. So I'm going to cut that off now and get it out of the way. Don't worry, it won't be wasted. I don't waste anything. I should take that off and I shall put that on something else. And it's actually quite good cable. It's rubber. Look, they've rammed that in there. I'll never get that out of that handle. I'll have to undo the handle fixing to try and loosen it off. They must have had a devil's own job getting it through that cord protector. God blimey. Oh, it's coming. Good lord. Look at pulled the cord protector out as well, look folks. I'm not going to take the handle off. Some people would take the handle off. It's better actually to leave it on because when you're working on the motor it gives it some support. So unless you need to take it off, and I don't need to at the moment, I'm not going to. First thing to do is I'm just going to show you how to remove the switch, because some people do have trouble with the switch. What you do, you put it in there, there's a little slot, you push, there you go, and that's the little switch button. There's the spring there, you see, and it just hooks underneath this piece here. I hope you can see this. I'll move it over a little bit. You can see that little plate there, and that spring hooks under that plate, and that's the switch. If you do need to take the switch off to replace it, there's one nut there. You undo that nut and the plate comes off and you get the switch underneath. Okay, so that's that off. We don't really need it off, but I wanted to show you because some people have struggled to get it off. Take the front cover plate off. Now at this stage it's best to remove the agitator because it's much easier getting the agitator out. Sometimes they get a bit tight, you understand. So whilst it's in the body it's much easier to remove the agitator. So what you do is lay the machine over like this and then just tip it against the handle like so. Undo that obviously. Now on the 1334s and later models you can just pull the belt and the whole thing comes out. On these you can't, you've got retaining clips. They're better actually, better quality. So get your screwdriver and just move the clips up. These are easy, like I can do this with my fingers practically, but some of the older machines they're so tight you can't get them out. And then once you've done that, just turn it round so the brush bars are in there, and then you can pull the agitator out, and there you can see the agitator in all its glory. And I'll show you the brushes so you'll see the difference. Now you can see how much the brushes are worn out in that shot there. So that's the agitator. We'll put that over there out of the way. So now we've got the agitator out, we can now take the main motor body apart. So this is where it comes in handy having it on the handle. The handle's still on because having the handle there, it supports it while you work on it. So all you've got to do now is take out these 4 screws around here. There are 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. On these models, they're usually quite easy to get out, unlike the very old ones I used to have trouble with. That's the first one, and the screw's gone inside there, never mind. Right, that's it. Now we've got the main body apart, and that's the main body, and we'll just put that aside for later. I'll just pop that over there because we don't need that for the moment. Okay, so now you'll see why it's important to leave the handle on, because it gives it some support, otherwise it's more awkward to work on the motor. Turn it over and take the carbon brushes out. Now when you take brushes out, these brush heads are a little bit worn, these caps. You can see they've been in and out a few times. Whoops, there's the first one. Don't lose the can. And make sure they're insulated. If they've got any brass showing on them, then you have to be careful, because that means they'll be live in use. So they must never have any brass. There's the brass on the underside, look. So you've got to make sure the top has got the Bakelite on. If there's any brass showing on the top, they're dangerous. I'll pop that in there. Now, a lot of people won't tell you this, but when you take a brush out, they do wear in a certain way. And it's better to put them back how you took them out. Now, if I put that brush in the other way up, it'll tend to click and make the machine noisy. So what you should do, what we always used to do, is mark them with a little screwdriver or something like left. I'm just going to put an L on there, so we'll know that's the left brush and on the top. So we'll put those over there, and then we'll do the same with the other side. And I'll mark this one R for right. Having done that, turn the thing back over now, and now you can access the 4 screws that hold the armature in place. You'll notice there's a little gasket round here, or there should be. This one looks really hard. It's important that's there, otherwise you get dust everywhere. Okay, so we've got the 4 screws out. Now that should just pull out unless somebody's glued it in, and it does. And there's the little gasket, look, and it's all crumbly and in a shocking state. That has had it, basically. There's the little gasket. That must go in there, otherwise you'll get dust everywhere. I'm going to put that over there carefully. I think I've got some more, or I can fashion one. Right, so there we are, full of dust. There's the armature. Get a little bit of rag. One of my videos, I was using an angle grinder and I set my shirt on fire and I had to rip it up, but I'm using it for rag, so it's not wasted. This is a bit of my shirt. You might even recognise it if you watch the video. Okay, well, this armature in here, I can tell now by looking at it, isn't actually a genuine Hoover armature. That's a pattern armature. I can tell by the design of it. Not that it matters. Sometimes you see these get so badly worn that you get a screw thread on it. It's actually like a screw on that. You can see a little bit of wear, but it's nothing that matters. But sometimes they get really badly worn, and they wear thin as well. Now, before I do any more, just to get the armature out of there, all you need to do is hold the armature and just turn the fan like that, and then you can loosen the fan pulley off. Take that off. We don't need to get at this at the moment, but I'm just going to show you so you'll know how it comes off. There's the fan pulley. Now, check the fan pulley, because sometimes these actually wear. I've actually seen these where they wear so thin, the belt wears the pulley out over time, and they actually snap off. The actual end of the fan pulley has actually been known to snap off. It's quite amazing, really, how a bit of rubber can actually wear the metal away, isn't it? But I've actually seen them worn away, it's flat snapped off. Just take the fan off. And note carefully that you've got an insulating washer there, and then there will be several other washers. And again, somebody's had a go at this, because there's 2 small insulating washers there, and those aren't the genuine Hoover ones. Somebody else has put those on at some point, because they're normally little metal shim washers. And then you've got the collar spacer. If you're not used to it, put them in the order so you know which way to put them back in. Then you can just take the armature out. Now, if the armature's jammed in there solid, and you want to get it out, be careful. Don't get a hammer. I've seen people get a hammer and clout it. Don't do that. Just rest it on your hand like this lot. Rest it on your hand, and then carefully just hold it loosely. And if you've got a sort of soft mallet, you can tap it, or a wooden mallet, you can tap it with something, or a piece of wood even, but you do not want to damage the end of the thread. If you damage the end of the thread, you've had it. You won't get the fan pulley on, because it's got a Bakelite insert in, so be very careful. This one's come out easily. Now, normally what you would do, when you take it apart, you'd clean all these up. Every Hoover man would have a little dusting brush with him, and then you clean all the dust out. I'm not going to go through that now, because you don't want to see me dusting it, but trust it, I will do that later before I put it back together. The belt I took off is really good, and it's a quality belt, unusually. It's not a genuine Hoover one, because it hasn't got Hoover written on it. There's been a real problem with these belts. The belts that Hoover have been supplying, the genuine ones, and most of the pattern parts are absolutely awful. They are so tight that you put them on, you're lucky if it lasts a minute before it snaps. They're absolutely hopeless. There is only one belt I've found at the moment that's any good at all for these models, and that's the Qualtex, the ones made by Qualtex. They're pattern belts. If you can get Qualtex belts, they're good, but don't buy anything else, because they're no good, even genuine Hoover. These are good. Qualtex. I don't know whether this is a Qualtex. This one's good. It's probably an old one, but the Qualtex ones I know are good. This is the cover that holds the field coils in place. You do not really need to take the field coils out to get the bearing out. you can get the bearing out without taking the field coils out. It's a bit of a fiddle, but you can do it. If you take the field coils out, it's a lot more of a fiddle because it's very difficult getting the little clips back onto the carbon brush holders. It's a fiddle. It can be done if you've got nimble fingers, and I've done it many a time, but I'm not going to do it on this because it's a lot of hassle. So what I'm going to do is show you how to take the bearing out without taking the field coils out. And it's a bit tight in there, but you can do it. Now, if you can see down in there, you'll see it's all full of dirt and dust and everything. So what I'm going to have to do is get a little brush and clean that out so we can see what's going on in there. Having cleaned it out, you can now see the screws, the 3 screws to hold the bearing in. Here's the bearing, and you can see the 3 holes in the bearing there. And there are 3 screws in there. Now, if you get a long, thin screwdriver like this one, what you can do, instead of taking all the field coils out, if you poke it down through the field coils, you can normally get onto those screws like I'm doing now and undo the screws. There's the first one. Get a pair of long nose pliers and get the screw out, save it falling in the bottom. There you are, I've extracted 1 screw. Look, that's the first one. Right, now, having done that, if you get, there's a little wire there, look. That little wire, that's the bonding wire between the rear bearing and the earth. So now, if you get a pair of long nose pliers in there, you should be able to pull that bearing out, look. There you go. Like extracting teeth, isn't it? And there's the rear bearing out without taking field coils. Just pop that over there and let's have a look at it. That's actually probably the original Hoover bearing. If you look at it, it's got grease impregnated on there. So it's obviously a genuine Hoover one because no pattern bearing. This is a pattern bearing. You notice there's no writing on there. But this is a genuine Hoover one. The next thing to do is to give it a bit of a clean up inside, and then I'll reassemble it and I'll show you the process of doing that. But I think what I'll do is that I'll do a 3rd video covering that, rather do it in here, because then I can spend a bit of time cleaning it up, and then when I come back you won't have to waste time watching that. Thanks very much for watching. I know it's not very exciting, but there are people out there who do collect old Hoovers, and it might be interesting to them, you never know. I hope it was clear what I did, but I can't tell really when I'm filming it. I'll have to wait and see when the footage comes off the cameras, won't I? Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in part 3 hopefully, all being well. Bye for now, goodbye.